Okay, really excited about today. I've been doing this journaling protocol which comes from Andrew Huberman. There's actually someone else who pioneered it, and the attribution really should go to them, but I learned it from a podcast by Andrew Huberman, and so I've been calling it Huberman journaling, and done a few rounds of it. So it comes in rounds of 4. You pick something in your life, potentially the most difficult or traumatic thing you have going on in your life, and you do 4 sessions. Could be 4 consecutive days or once a week, 4 times. I've done it both ways, and I think there's value to both, but I'm currently doing it day after day, and I just did my 3rd day, and I've been having this tension in my jaw, and I'm trying to find answers, and so I'm journaling about it, and it's been quite elucidating. And so the thing that's really exciting to me is a lot of threads have been coming together that in recent months, these threads that over the last few months have sort of been coming into play, and now really started to see how they are all connected. So I first listened to this podcast it's called Emerge Podcast with Daniel Thorson, and John Churchill was the guest, and they were talking about attachment theory, which is something as a parent had a bit of exposure to, and the thing I found so interesting, and it was so cleverly disguised in a phrase that when I first heard it I didn't understand, but for some reason I felt really compelled to go back and listen, so I skipped back, listened, and I listened 10 times in a row, and it took that many times to actually understand what was being said, but for some reason I knew it was important. It's so interesting that I felt the urge to go back, and I just listened and listened until I started to form in my mind a map, I suppose. And the first, I think I've talked about this before, there's 3 elements, right? There is attunement, attachment, and wisdom of the heart. And so attunement is when you tune into another person. In attachment theory, I suppose it is the tuning in of mother to child. So you have a baby, and the baby is crying, and often people, when you're in public or whatever, you'll hear people say, "Oh, they must be tired," and you know that's not what they're saying. Being attached to them, being attuned to them, I know that this is something different. And so you sort of just go, yeah, they're fine. So that's being attuned to someone, and there are many ways to attune to people. As adults, I think we often have conversations, and a deep conversation will lead to the 2 people tuning into each other. And so that's attunement. Am I going the other direction now? I don't know. And then there's attachment, and attachment comes through attunement. And so when you tune into someone, you begin to feel attached to them. And so the infant becomes attached to the mother as the mother attunes to them. And attachment is feeling safe and secure. And actually there's Magical Child by Joseph Chilton Pierce. He talks about the mother as matrix, and so the matrix actually shifts throughout one's life, and so the mother starts as the matrix, and then thinking matrix then shifts to oneself as a teenager. So you move away from being attached to your mother, and then you start to form an attachment to yourself. And that could be incorrect, but this is what I'm remembering. And then you become attached to the world, essentially. And so you learn to be safe, and the earth, the world becomes what you're attached to. And so most people don't become very securely attached to their mother, and so they can't go through the succession to attachment, true attachment as an adult. And so a lot of us are kind of just seeking out, mama, please come help and save me. And that's why we look to others to come rescue us. Anyway, move on from attachment to wisdom of the heart. It's interesting, I created a diagram. I hope it's not too noisy because the microphone is moving around. Still figuring this stuff out. And this is dumb, pointing a camera at a screen. I don't like it. Oh, there we go. Computer, why are you failing me now? Again, I don't like pointing a camera at a screen, but we don't have the technology yet. So here we have attachment, attunement, attachment, wisdom of the heart. And then I started to realize that there's more coming out the other end. And then the wisdom of the heart also goes down in the shape. And so I think, seeing the framework kind of makes the context a little more helpful. So there were the three parts, but as I started to dive deeper into it through journaling sessions, there we go. I realized that the journey I've been on lately is freedom of expression, and in previous videos I've talked about this is what this project here, me sitting in front of the camera is learning to become more free in my expression. So I sat down the first time, felt really nervous, didn't know what to say, it was uncomfortable, and even now I wait till no one's home so I can talk to the camera. Maybe at some point I become so free in just expressing myself in this way that I don't care who's listening, but I'm not there yet. And so I realized that, so you have access to the wisdom of the heart, and I'll drill down into what wisdom of the heart is shortly, but I see this all as a sort of progression to becoming more actualized, and I'm also seeing it as sort of the archetype of the king. And archetype of king is very different from many people's perception of kings. And so I see the king needing to have a deep connection to the wisdom of his heart. Otherwise, he is cut off from connection to love and what is true. And so the people that he is leading, he is the voice for the people that he is leading. And if he's cut off from his heart, then he is leading for himself, not for others. And so that's a tyrant. And so to have a strong connection between the heart and the voice is to be able to communicate from your heart, and therefore you're communicating truth and not from the head to the mouth, which is cut off from the heart. Everything has to flow through the heart. And so to come back to the jaw thing, I'm just noticing that, as I'm sort of slouching and my neck is pushing forwards, that, I don't have enough strength in my upper back and neck. And then as I'm tilting forward, there's more strain on my jaw. And so as I raise this was when I was journaling, I wrote, as I raise my crown, I feel the tension release. And I was like, that's an interesting phrase, to raise one's crown. And, that made me think of the archetype of the king. And, so I sort of see the neck, upper back as being the space between the mouth, which is expression, and the heart, which is, we'll go into the wisdom of the heart in a moment. So the connection between the heart and the mouth is where I'm feeling weak, and that's where this pressure is coming into my jaw. And so I'm validated by the fact that I'm sitting here talking, joining in an improv class, which is very much a freeing of expression. And so all these things I'm doing to help with my expression, and true expression, as in I'm not writing down bullet points and talking in a structured manner. I am just having things come up and out, and there's very little filter in between the arising of what is being said and the expression of what's being said. And I think that filter is what causes issues. Anyway, so that's kind of running across the top, and now to go down, as in the wisdom of the heart. John Churchill in the Emerge podcast talks about the dimensions of the heart. And so dimensions being upward, downward, forward, backward, and then a width as well. And so the width is the width of one's embrace, like how wide are you able to embrace? And so that's like how many people or are you able to bring into your heart. And that made a connection for me between the idea in improv. I've done one class, I'm an expert. So the principle of yes and I found that so powerful when I first saw it in action, because normally when someone is doing something that you want to change your behavior, you're like, no, stop, don't do that, do this instead. Where yes and is saying, yeah, okay, I really like what you're doing there, I really see and acknowledge that, and let's add this piece in too. And so you're like acknowledging them and then redirecting. And so I see that as like an attribute of a king. If he has people coming in who are requesting things from him, he can't just be shutting people down, because then he's creating dissonance. You'll have people pushing back, and so you need to acknowledge those people, but then also lead. And so that means acknowledging them, hearing them, and when that person's heard, even if you are saying, okay, so yeah, I really get that, and we're going to do this, you are acknowledging them and redirecting and leading. And so that's I see as an element of width, because you're able to see other people, you're able to bring them in to your embrace. And it felt right before, it feels a bit tenuous of a connection now. I might wrap it up shortly, but I maybe blast through the other dimensions. So the downward dimension I can see as a grounding, a solid base, strength, and I was over the last few months, as something sort of came up that felt pertinent. I've been adding it to a sort of list of goals, and one of the things was to keep my mind on that which I love. And it's very easy to sort of have your mind drift towards the things that you hate and the things you wish were different and blah blah blah. And really, to have a stable base, it's like, this is what I love, this is what is right and real and true in this world, and this is what I want to cultivate, and I'm going to keep my mind there, keep my focus on that, and everything that comes out of me is from this solid base of that which I want to see more of in the world, not from a reactionary, like, I hate this thing, move against it. It's like this is where I want to, and emanating out what it is that which you love. So I see that as like the grounding dimension. And then the forward dimension, which has been really strong for me at the moment, as I've set a goal that I want to run 50 kilometers in an endurance event in a month's time. And so over the past couple of months I've been training for that, and this has been serving as a proxy for me to show that I'm aiming to set a goal months out, to stick to it, and to keep like pushing. And even though at times it's been really difficult to continue running, I've been sore, I've been struggling in various ways, it's like, this is a goal that I really want to push for. And I think that driving is needed, because it's like, okay, all of these disturbances are going to come in, but I have my mind focused on something out there ahead, and I'm going towards it. And I think if you have this drive, you have to have the solid base of love that I was talking about, because if you aren't grounded and you're driving, then you're not coming from a place of what is true and what is at its essence loving. Many people are driving, pushing, but they don't have a base, and so that's how we sort of get into this very weird place we're at in the world, where people are pushed into new realms, but not really have a strong connection to their reason why. And then I'll move on to the upward dimension, and that is like an elevation of vibration, of frequency. Very new and adequate with my tie-dye hoodie right now, and my matching tie-dye track pants. So that's the ability to take in shame and guilt and rage and hatred, and convert that to something of a higher frequency, which is love and willingness. That's been one, actually, is changing with willingness. Is like, I will be feeling anger towards someone, and then I'll realize, and it's like, you know what, I'm willing to let this go. It's something I wish were different, but then I also understand the other person enough to know that they aren't acting from a place of malice. It's just their baggage meeting my baggage, and so I am willing to let it go. And then by just going into that willingness, the rage almost just dissipates, evaporates. That was the word I was looking for. And so it just gets transformed into something higher, and then all of a sudden you just feel lighter. And so that's like this ability to raise up the negative into the positive. I think the only one remaining is backwards, which is one I'm only just starting to wrap my head around. So I understand it now as like a sort of receding and protective, going into the cave, and at times you're driving forwards and you're pushing into new areas, you're pushing into new places. But then there are other times where you need to seek shelter and to recuperate and recover and heal, and that's definitely a push and pull of the forward and backwards, where I was training really hard and then I got quite sick, and for about a week I really had to recede into a protective space where I was not pushing myself anymore and realizing that my body actually needed some gentleness and some just space to recover. Anyway, until when I am excited, that means when I'm wrong. The past few videos no one really watching me well, so just sitting back and I didn't want anyone to watch them. I was a bit unsettled when I started to see views come into my videos, and there's been about a total 100 views now. But in the last few days, nothing has changed, and I actually find myself, I want to say saddened, but something definitely felt like an absence when that growing stopped happening. But that's fine. We'll keep driving.